Hello everyone. Let's start with pre-hominid groups, Sahelanthropus, tchadensis, Orrorin, tugenensis, and Ardipithecus ramidus. And before proceeding on to the text of this topic, let's have a look at one of the topic in previous videos, which is about cladogenesis and anagenesis. So cladogenesis is an evolutionary process where a species split up into distinct branches. So you can say clerogenesis is a branching type of evolution, which is opposite to the anagenesis, which is a linear road. So here, while studying about pre-hominid groups, we are going to look at the history of human evolution, which is more akin to clerogenesis. The story from ape-like ancestor to modern Homo sapiens, this evolutionary journey, it is complex and one of branching. And this journey it has been shared by many extinct relatives. A few such relatives are pre-hominid or proto-hominid species such as the Sahelanthropus tchadensis, Orrorin tugenensis, and Ardipithecus ramidus. And all these extinct species together form the earliest known stages of human ancestry. फिर इन स्पीशीज पे extinct relatives पे बढ़ने से पहले let's have a broad overview about the geological history of life. So the geological history started with the birth of Earth and proceed on to the late Miocene and early Pliocene, जिस पे ये तीनों fossils मिले हैं. So the biological history, the geological history of Earth starts with the formation of Earth around 4.6 billion years ago, where Earth was formed from a nebula of dust and gas that moved around a young sun. And the initial stages, Earth was extremely hot and hostile, with rampant volcanic activity and meteorite bombardment. And over time, Earth cooled by forming solid crust, and because of this degassing, क्योंकि जैसे ही Earth धीरे धीरे cool हुई and the hot material, the molten material started concentrating deeper into the core. जो surface है, it became free, it started getting cool, और जो gases हैं, they escaped out and form an atmosphere. फिर यही है, this atmosphere like a blanket. So यही gases when degassed and escaped out, they reach this atmospheric limit, and out of that no gas can escape the atmosphere, क्योंकि उसके लिए एक escape thrust चाहिए. उतना thrust gases के पास है नहीं. So ultimately they started forming clouds, और वो clouds जो है they pour down into precipitation. फिर बारिश होती गई. ये एक सीन समझ लीजिए कि for millions of years there was continuous rain. तो जो आप oceans देख रहे हैं that cover more than 70% of our land, ये oceans उन्हीं millions of years के precipitation से बने हैं. Now let's move on to the next geological compartmentalization. So the Earth, history of Earth, it is divided into two times, Precambrian and Cambrian. So Precambrian starts with the birth of Earth 4.6 billion years to 541 million years ago. Approximate 540, which is rounded off, but in usual scientific scenario, we keep it at 541 million years. And the second time from that is known as Cambrian time, it starts with 541 million years, and it is still going on in present. So the pre-Cambrian time, here life emerged in the ocean as simple cell organism, क्योंकि oceans बने, ocean formation आपको बता दिया. Then उन्हीं ocean में, because of the coming together of various products and the synthesis, they form the primordial soup, और उन्हीं primordial soup में form the first unicellular organism. Then, because of the rise of photosynthetic algae, photosynthetic bacteria, oxygen began to accumulate, and this event is known as great oxygenation event, which is related to photosynthetic bacteria. Then after which the cell division continued, the primordial soup and its constituent amino acid synthesis जो आपने अगर प्रोटीन सिंथेसिस का देखा होगा, हाउ प्रोटीन सिंथेसिस इज फॉर्म, तो यही अमीनो एसिड्स जो है दे हैव डिफरेंट कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट, दे स्टार्टेड फॉर्मिंग मल्टीपल सेल्स इन वन गो, और यही मल्टीपल सेल्स हैं they later gave way to multicellular life which began to appear towards the end of this era. फिर जो ये प्री कैम्ब्रियन टाइम है, या जो ओवरऑल टाइम है, इट इज डिवाइडेड इनटू एरास. तो कैम्ब्रियन टाइम की बात करते हैं. कैम्ब्रियन विच स्टार्टेड 541 मिलियन ईयर्स अगो और अभी भी चल रहा है. इस कैम्ब्रियन टाइम का फर्स्ट एरा पैलियोजोइक एरा from 540 to 250 million years, and this era marked the appearance of diverse marine life followed by plants and animals. And the major events during this time were the Cambrian explosion. Cambrian explosion means the explosion or proliferation of life forms. और एक साथ ही बहुत सारी life forms started appearing in the landscape. And this period also saw the formation of early vertebrates. Vertebrates means those species that have vertebral column, the spines. And this era ended with the Permian extinction, which is the largest mass extinction in the Earth's history, which wiped out 90% of marine life and 70% of terrestrial life. Then the second era of Cambrian time is Mesozoic era, that started from 250 million years and ended at 66 million years ago. This era is also known as the age of reptiles, where dinosaurs, non-avian dinosaurs dominated, and इसी time पे first mammals and birds also appeared. And this era ended with another mass extinction event, maybe due to an asteroid. The likely event, the likely factors are not have been found so far. And this era, it ended with KPG extinction event. KPG means Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event. Cretaceous is the last epoch of Mesozoic era, and Paleogene is the first era of Cenozoic, first epoch of Cenozoic era. So KPG is a boundary event between Mesozoic and Cenozoic. So this extinction event, it led to the demise of non-avian dinosaurs, or dinosaurs के जाने के बाद ही the mammals they found the required space. फिर बात करते हैं Cenozoic era that started with 66 million years ago and still going into the present. So this era is known as the age of mammals. So after the extinction of dinosaurs, mammals started diversifying rapidly. And during this time, Earth's climate and continent both continued to shift dramatically. So there was a continental reshuffling of its climate में glacial and interglacial cycle. Where this era it is divided into many epochs. First Paleogene, जो आपको यहाँ पे समझाया, the KPG boundary event, and during the Paleogene, early mammal radiated. Then second epoch is Neogene, that includes Miocene and Pliocene epoch, which is a critical time for ape and early human evolution. और अभी हम इनके बारे में पढ़ते हैं, क्योंकि जो प्री होमिनिड ग्रुप्स हैं वो इन्हीं दोनों टाइम के हैं. Now, the late Miocene and early Pliocene time was late Miocene epoch that ran from approximately 11.6 million to 5.3 million years. And as of climate and environment, so the global climate it became cooler and dried compared to earlier periods. So forests began to shrink in many regions and replaced by open woodlands and grassland. This information आप लोगों को याद रहनी चाहिए, क्योंकि इससे पहले वाले वीडियो में भी बताया, अभी भी बता रहा हूँ. During this time, this transition from forest-based habitat to open grassland and woodlands, it created critical adaptive pressures for earlier primates. और उन्हीं adaptive pressure की वजह से आज Homo sapiens ruling the world. वो देखते हैं कैसे. And this was also the time when Mediterranean Sea temporarily dried up, known as the Macedonian salinity crisis around 6 billion years ago. So this Macedonian salinity crisis, it was a time, उसका थोड़ा background देख लेते हैं. the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Ocean. Both are connected by a seaway known as the Strait of Gibraltar. Strait of Gibraltar, और ये जो स्ट्रेट है उस वक्त around 6 million years ago, because the time was ripe for continental reshuffling, plate tectonics, lithospheric upheavals वगैरह चल रहे थे. तो उसी टेक्टोनिक मूवमेंट्स की वजह से दिस स्ट्रेट इज क्लोज्ड ऑफ, और उसकी वजह से जो मेडिटेरेनियन सी है उसको जो वाटर इनफ्लक्स है, जो इंटरमिक्सिंग ऑफ वाटर है, इट इज स्टॉप्ड. फिर बाकी आप समझ सकते हैं कि इफ अ वाटर बॉडी इज क्लोज्ड ऑफ, नो फ्रेश वाटर इज coming into it, and in the absence of fresh water होगा क्या, the evaporation starts. और अगर the place, the latitude at which a certain water body is situated, if it is of tropical and temperate climate, फिर वहाँ पे evaporation ज़्यादा होगा. एंड जो ओशियानिक बॉडीज होती है दैट आर मिनरल रिच, अगर वहाँ पे इवेपरेशन होगा तो जो वाटर है इट विल इवेपरेट इन फॉर्म ऑफ वाटर वेपर्स, एंड जो सॉलिड मटेरियल है, सॉलिड पार्टिकल्स है, दे विल बी लेफ्ट बिहाइंड. और वो सॉलिड होगा क्या, सॉल्ट. इसी इसी तरीके से तो सॉल्ट बनता है. तो दिस दिस सिचुएशन, दिस स्ट्रेट क्लोज्ड ऑफ, इवेपोरेशन कंटिन्यूड, और उसकी वजह से दिस sea, Mediterranean Sea, it temporarily dried up, became a sea of salt, and that is known as Messinian salinity crisis. फिर the geological event, तो जैसे अभी आपको पता है कि that was the time of continental upheavals, lithospheric movements, tectonic movements, and it was also the time when the Indian plate collided with the Eurasian plate, और उसकी वजह से the Tethys Sea, the sediment they accumulated, they subducted, and hence we saw the formation of the Himalayas. और इसी तरह से और भी जितने भी young fold mountains हैं, they started forming and started uplifting. Then this period also saw the formation of East African Rift System, which is a major tectonic feature that influenced climate and habitat. And this East African Rift System is also important from the perspective of physical anthropology, of especially the archaeological anthropology. क्योंकि इसी rift system में we have found many fossils that starts with the earliest primates to hominids to hominins to later Homo sapiens. तो इस रिफ्ट सिस्टम में बहुत सारे फॉसिल्स मिले हैं, इसलिए इम्पॉर्टेंट है. और ये रिफ्ट सिस्टम है, इट इज अ टेक्टोनिक प्लेट बाउंड्री वेयर द होल अफ्रीकन प्लेट इट इज बीइंग स्प्लिट अपार्ट इन दिस वे. और दिस स्प्लिट स्टार्ट्स विद द Nubian plate of Sudan that starts in the Horn of Africa, and it travels down to the Mozambique. तो दिस होल रिफ्ट सिस्टम बता दिया आपको कि कैसे इम्पॉर्टेंट है फॉर स्टडिंग अर्ली होमिनिन evolution. Then the late Miocene epoch also saw the expansion of C4 grasses, which are adapted to dry and open environment. Now, if you ask about C4 grasses, so they use a special photosynthetic pathway known as C4 photosynthetic pathway. And this pathway, this photosynthesis, it is very important and efficient in hot and dry climate. जो आपने देखा होगा कि डेजर्ट के अंदर जो फोटो रेस्पिरेशन है वो उसको प्रिजर्व करने के लिए, टू मिनिमाइज फोटो रेस्पिरेशन, the plants and species, the flora, they have special mechanism like thorns वगैरह. But we are talking about the staple crops. So this photosynthetic pathway, it help minimize the photo respiration. और staples के example like maize हो गया, sorghum हो गया. These are example of such a species that integrate C4 photosynthetic pathway. Where let's proceed to early Pliocene epoch that ran from 5.3 to 2.6 million years ago. With climate, so climate here remained cooler but more stable than late Miocene, and forests continue to contract, and savanna, open grasslands, open woodland, they continue to expand further in Africa, and the Macedonian salinity crisis ended, and the sea level in Mediterranean basin rose again. With geological and ecological features, so this epoch it saw the strengthening of seasonal rainfall patterns, especially in Africa, and this led to formation of ecological mosaic, a mix of woodland, grassland, and wetland, and this provided varied ecological niches which further influence animal behavior, survival strategy, and primate evolution. Now let's have an impact of late Miocene and early Pliocene on pre-hominid evolution. So first impact is on habitat shift and locomotion. So when dense forests were replaced by wooded grasslands, the pre-hominids they had to adapt to a life on ground. और उससे पहले की before you can say क्योंकि जो primates हैं they started diversifying after the KPG extinction event around 66 million years ago. That is during the Mesozoic era. So इस time पे most of the primates they were arboreal, those who lived on trees. But during Miocene and Pliocene, both of which belong to Cenozoic era, so इस time पे forests began shrinking and wooded grassland, open grassland, they came into the picture. और उसके लिए अब जो प्राइमेट है और उनके descendants हैं they had to adapt to the life on ground. और this adaptive pressure it favored or provided the fertile ground for evolution of bipedalism. क्योंकि अब if they had to adapt on the life on ground, then they must traverse the open distance in an efficient manner without getting eaten by a predator. So here, walking on two legs, it was more energy efficient, not only for covering long distances, but also to avoid predators. And bipedalism, it also freed the hands for carrying food, infants, and tools. Now, the selection pressures and physical adaptation. So, with the coming of wooded grassland, open grassland, new challenges like predator visibility, heat exposure, and foraging distance, all of these factors, all of these selective pressures started influencing anatomy. So here, upright posture, it helped reduce heat exposure from the sun. वो आप समझ सकते हैं that between a quadrupedal motion and an upright motion, bipedal motion, you can see the difference in the area that is exposed to the sun. So एक quadrupedal के लिए, the organism who's walking on four legs, उसका जो एक्सपोजर एरिया है वो ज़्यादा होगा, और एक जो अपराइट होगा, बाइपेडल होगा, उसका एक्सपोजर एरिया कम होगा. Then this upright posture it also enhanced vision over tall grasses, and that's how the stereoscopic vision was favored because of this selective pressure. क्योंकि when they started uh, walking on two, it was necessary to detect predator, find resources, एंड स्टीरियोस्कोपिक विजन है वैसे तो वो पहले ही आ चुका था ड्यूरिंग आर्बोरियल लाइफस्टाइल, जब पेड़ों पे थे एंड वी वर एग्जिस्टिंग ऑन ट्री इन एन आर्बोरियल लाइफस्टाइल, उस टाइम भी स्टीरियोस्कोपिक विजन आ गया. दैट्स द चीफ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ प्राइमेट्स. बट स्टिल बाइपेडल मोशन के बाद, अपराइट पोस्चर के बाद थोड़ी बहुत जो रिलायंस जो थी स्मेल पे वो पूरी तरह से खत्म हो गई. अब नाउ you have to employ these two eyes, this reason, for everything, for finding food, for finding mate, and to avoid predators. And then the reduced canine size and dental changes also suggested dietary changes. So when open grasslands are there, So the food diversity, even though it increased, but dietary specialization also reduced to a large extent. Dietary specialization means to eat a particular kind of diet. तो अब यहाँ पे survive करने के लिए we our ancestors they needed to bring up a mix of diets because survival के लिए nutrition जरूरी है. And dietary specialization, especially during those time when forests were no longer there, predator visibility was there, open grassland. So ऐसे में they had to find the nutrition जिस भी resource से मिल जाए उससे. And uh, this behavior it led to omnivory. कि अब सिर्फ प्लांट से हर्बिवोरी से न्यूट्रिशन नहीं मिलेगा. नाउ वी हैव टू bring in multiple sources. और यही omnivorous diet, यही omnivory, it helped us survive that long. By diversification of hominin traits, and it was during this time that species such as Sahelanthropus tchadensis, Orrorin tugenensis, and Ardipithecus ramidus, all three species show certain common features such as early signs of bipedal locomotion, changes in teeth and skull shape, smaller canines and flatter faces, and a mosaic of lifestyle, a mixture of arboreal and terrestrial feature that indicates transition lifestyles. Now, behavioral and social changes. So, open grassland, they may have encouraged first greater cooperation and group living, which further led to enlargement of social groups and might be a precursor to the culture and society that we see today. Then this uh, adaptive pressure also provided precursor for tool pre-adaptation. So even though no tools were directly associated with these species, but yeah, the selective pressure they might have encouraged to design tool use, especially when the threat level was so that high. And the new pattern of diet, which includes fruit, seeds, roots, and possibly small animals. In short, a shift towards omnivory. Now, first starts with Sahelanthropus tchadensis, and this species has also been given a nickname Toumaï. Now, the time period it lived around 7 to 6 million years ago during the late Miocene epoch, and this time is very close to the estimated date of last common ancestor between humans and chimpanzees. So you must remember, 6 million years ago is the estimated date of divergence of chimpanzee and human branch. Where location? So the fossil of Toumaï were discovered in Jurab Desert in northern Chad, Central Africa. And this fossil was significant because it was found far outside the usual East African rift system or East African fossil zone like Ethiopia and Kenya. तो जो पहले आपको बताया था कि ईस्ट अफ्रीकन रिफ्ट इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर आर्कियोलॉजिकल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी क्योंकि यहाँ पे बहुत सारे फॉसिल्स मिले हैं. But discover it was discovered in 2001 by a team led by French paleoanthropologist Michel Brunet, and this fossil find, a nearly complete skull, it is known as nicknamed Toumaï. The morphology and features: brain small, capacity around 350 cubic centimeter, but face is relatively flat and short compared to apes. And flat face means no protruding snout. Where it had thick and prominent brow ridges above the eyes. Brow ridges, um, the bone above the eyebrows. Where the canine teeth were small and human-like. Where the foramen magnum, जो आपको बताया कि it is the hole where spinal cord connects to the brain. It was positioned more centrally, more underneath the skull. Or time and again, I have told you, it is the placement of foramen magnum which shows if any species, any primate species is bipedal or not. So if it is positioned underneath the skull or more centrally towards the skull, it hints at upright posture, क्योंकि वो जो explanation आपको बताया था center of gravity का, where the skull shows a mix of both ape-like and human-like characteristic, a mosaic. The significance: so Sahelanthropus is one of the oldest known fossil species that may belong to human evolutionary lineage, and it shows an important mixture of traits. Ape-like traits are the small brain and robust skull. Human-like traits: flatter face, small canine, and possibly upright posture due to anterior placement of foramen magnum. Now the interpretation. So this fossil was nicknamed Toumaï, which means hope of life in the Zaga language of Chad. And the skull's combination of features, both ape and human-like, places it close to the base of human family tree, possibly near the last common ancestor of human and chimpanzees. Now the next species, the Orrorin tugenensis, it lived around 6 million years ago, the critical window during the late Miocene epoch when it was supposed that human and chimpanzee diverged. Human and chimpanzee diverged from a common ancestor. Location: Tugen Hills near Kenya, East Africa, and this area, it is a part of large East African Rift Valley system, which is known for its rich fossil beds. The discoverer, the species were discovered in 2000 by Martin Pickford and Brigitte Sanu, two prominent paleoanthropologists. And because it was discovered during the start of new millennium, Orrorin was nicknamed Millennium Man. The morphology and features, so only fragmentary fossils have been found, including jaw, teeth, arm, leg bones, and femur, thigh bone. Now, the size of Orrorin, it was similar to that of modern chimpanzees. The teeth, it had thick animal, like modern humans, that indicate it might have eaten hard and abrasive foods like seeds and nuts. But the canines, they were relatively small, which suggests reduced male-male competition, a more hominin feature. And the femur bone, it is especially important because it shows features that are strongly associated with bipedalism, and at the same time, its arm bones, they indicate that Orrorin still spent time climbing trees. So you can see here two transitional features, a mixture of two different features. The femur bone, it shows feature of bipedalism, whereas the arms, they show features of arboreal lifestyle. So uh, it is then usually believed that during the late Miocene, when they were open grassland, our ancestor, they might have mixed both these features, the arboreal one and the bipedal one. Now the significance, it is considered one of the oldest known species that show evidence of bipedal walking, where the structure of femur is more human-like. And this led some scientists to suggest that Orrorin might be closer to direct human lineage than any other fossils. And finally, the interpretation, which provide support to the idea that bipedalism, it evolved very early in human evolution, possibly before evolution of big brains or advanced tools. Now, interpretations. First, although the fossil remains are incomplete, but the evidence point to Orrorin being partly adapted to upright posture of walking upright. And जो arms feature है, they show that it was still relying on climbing. So here, a mixture of a transition lifestyle can be seen. And whether Orrorin is a direct human ancestor or closely related cousin is still debated. और फिर ये इंटरप्रिटेशन जो आपको बता दे कि bipedalism evolved earlier than previously believed. Now, next species, Ardipithecus ramidus or Ardi. Ardipithecus ramidus lived about 4.4 million years ago during the early Pliocene epoch after late Miocene. And this time was also crucial in human evolution because by this time primates are beginning to show more human-like features. क्योंकि the time of divergence between human and chimpanzee, between hominid and chimpanzee, it has long passed. That was around 6 million years ago. And now, around 4.4 million years, primate, they started showing more human-like, more hominid features, especially bipedalism. Location, so it was discovered in a far region of Ethiopia, which is also part of the East African Rift Valley. And the site where Ardi was found is known as Aramis. Discoverer, so it was discovered in the early 1990s by a team of paleontologists led by Tim White, a leading expert. And the name ramidus, it comes from a far word for root. So the species, it symbolizes as a root species in the human lineage. Now, morphology and features. So uh, this species is known from a relatively complete skeleton, completely preserved skeleton named Ardi, along with 100 additional fossil specimens. The brain size between 300 and 350 cubic centimeter, same as that of modern chimpanzee. With teeth, smaller canines, minimal sexual dimorphism in teeth size, and body structure. Again, displayed a blend of climbing and walking trait, transitional features. The key anatomical features, long arms and curved fingers that suggest arboreal lifestyle and suggest that Ardi was still well adapted to tree climbing, grasping branches as she moved through forest canopy. A female member of this group. The pelvis was short and broad, and which show adaptation for early bipedal walking. Now, the unique feature lies in the foot. So, the foot it had a divergent big toe, and this divergent big toe it functioned almost like a thumb. A, in other words, it was a near opposable thumb, which was also useful for grasping branches. जो अभी तक आप समझ गए हैं कि hominid species we do not have opposable big toe. पैर का अंगूठा जो है it is not opposable. But the transitional species or the extinct species, especially Ardi, she showed this near opposable feature. And at the same time, other parts of foot and ankle structure, like the arches, they show that she could walk upright on two legs. So you can see two transitional features only in one part of a skeletal. The foot के अंदर they are two different features. Now the significance. So Ardi was one of the oldest well-preserved hominin species known, and anatomy shows that upright walking began earlier than previously believed, even before other traits like big brain or tool use evolved. And the fossil evidence is contradict other earlier assumption that common ancestor of human and chimpanzees was chimpanzee-like. So this refute the earlier argument and suggests that our ancestor, the earliest ancestor that diverged from chimpanzee, they were not knuckle walkers like chimpanzees or gorilla, but they might have used a different form of movement, a mixture lifestyle, a transitional feature that included both arboreal and ground-based lifestyle. Now, interpretations and evolutionary implications. So, RD challenges the traditional idea that bipedalism evolved in open savanna after the hominin left the trees. In short, ये पहले ये समझ रहे थे कि bipedalism it was it evolved only after our ancestor left the trees. यानी arboreal lifestyle खत्म होने के बाद भी when we were fully settled into ground-based lifestyle तभी bipedalism आया था. But we never thought about the transitional lifestyle or the adaptive pressure that might have favored such transition. So this traditional idea has been refuted. So her fossils they suggest that bipedal walking evolved in wooded environment where the early hominins they still relied on trees for food safety, but but walked on ground as well. So this combination of traits in Ardi's body, तो फूट के अंदर देखा जो elbow, hand इन सब में, so it suggests that human evolution was not a straight line but a complex process that involves multiple adaptation that happened over millions of years and in piecemeal manner. Now Ardi offers a new model for early human ancestor, uh, one that is distinct from both modern humans and modern apes. So यहाँ पे जो न्यू मॉडल है, it suggests that uh, our species, our ancestral hominids, they might have evolved very differently after diverging from a common ancestor. Now the comparative overview, first time period, Sahelanthropus was around 7 to 6 million years ago, Orrorin around 6 million, and Ardipithecus around 4.4. The region, Sahelanthropus, Chad, and Orrorin, Kenya, and Ardi, Ethiopia. Bipedalism evidence. So, Toumaï, the nickname, it had foramen magnum that was centrally placed, and Orrorin, the Millennium Man, it had um, femur bone, which showed sign of bipedal walking, and Ardi, she showed variation, uh, the signs of upright posture in pelvis, foot, and limb bones. The brain size almost equal, the teeth, small canine in all three of them, and habitat, it was nearly similar in all three of them. That's why they show similar features. Finally, the conclusion. So, the study of Toumaï, Millennium Man, and Ardi marks the beginning of human evolutionary history. And these pre-hominids lived between 7 to 4.4 million years ago, and all of them they show certain a mix of human and ape feature. Human features like upright walking, small canines, and their fossils reveal that bipedalism evolved long before larger brain or tools or complex culture. तो ये चीज जो है ये इंटरप्रिटेशन बार बार हर तीनों के अंदर आ रहा है. So it is evolutionary important for students of anthropology where these pre-hominid species walked on two legs but also climbed trees, and that suggests because of adaptive pressures our ancestors they suited themselves to mixed environment like woodland and savanna by shifting to a transitional lifestyle. Fair traits like reduced canine and flatter faces they point to important changes in diet and social behavior. So this is it, and again same thing. If something that I might have skipped, कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, कुछ छूट गया है, so you can ask me in comment or subscribe. Thank you.